What is up, everybody? And today I'm going to be talking about an exotic that surprisingly I haven't seen a whole lot of since Witch Queen and Void 3.0 came out, and it's Nezarec Sin. So I'm going to be making a build, rotating around Nezarec Sin, and spamming abilities. So I hope you strap in, and let's just get into it. So let's go over the pillars of this build before we get into specifics on it. Of course, we're going to need Nezarec Sin for it, being that that's the main focus. And then let's slap on Voidwalker because it just synergizes because of Void abilities and getting ability charge off of Void kills. That just goes together. And then let's pair that with a Void primary weapon, Elemental Well mods, and we've got a pretty solid outline for a build right there. So let's just get started with weapons, because they're super easy to get around and talk about. So a Void primary that's going to be really good for this build. Funnel Web, of course, is everyone's favorite SMG right now. It has Thresh on it. If you want more super energy, that's a great option. Another Void weapon with Thresh on it is Royal Chase if you like scout rifles. Of course, weapons that are Void and have Wellspring on them will also be great, Demo being another amazing perk for Void weapons with this build, so Gnawing Hunger is an option. And as for your heavy and kinetic weapons, I think in the heavy slot, a great option would be a rocket launcher that has Demo on it. A great rocket launcher that has Demo on it is Heretic with Cluster Bombs, which is pretty good, or Hothead with Explosive Light and Demolitionist, which is a great combo, being that you can shoot a rocket, throw a grenade, shoot another rocket immediately. Just that great cycle that you have going with that. And then I prefer using my exotic in my kinetic slot that allows me to use Izignami, which is an amazing option for DPS. Witherhoard, which is great for just launching it, either at a wave of enemies or at a boss, and then swapping to your rocket or whatever you're using and just finishing them off. And you can use Arbalest if it's anti-barriers. You can just use that kinetic slot to flex around and handle what you need. Say you need something that has Unstoppable on it. Well, you shouldn't run something like Leviathan's Breath. It'd be smarter if you just ran double primary with, say, Thorn or Malfeasance. Especially if as a take and strike, Malfeasance would do a lot for you. So that kinetic slot is flexible. I like things like Witherhoard or Izignami or even Arbalest to handle anti-barriers. But it's kind of whatever you want in that slot. Alright, now with our weapons out of the way, now let's talk about our subclass, our aspects, our fragments, even our grenade. Of course, for grenade, we're going to be running Vortex grenades because they are just insanely overpowered right now, sucking in adds and constantly dealing damage, especially with the weaken effect on grenades. But for our aspects, we'll be using Child of the Old Gods and Feed the Void. This will give us 4 fragment slots, which is always great to have. Plus, we'll have Devour up basically all the time, and Child of the Old Gods applies Weaken to enemies and damages multiple enemies at once just for casting your Rift, and that's just great to have. Now for our fragments, let's run with Expulsion, Undermining, Persistence, and Reprisal. This will apply Weaken for our grenades. It'll give us more super energy when enemies are close to us, and it's gonna do a lot of things for our grenades and give us more super, which is all we really need right now for this build. Now that we're past our subclass and what we need to do there, let's focus on our mods. And before I get into the details of our Elemental Well mods, let's touch on some other mods that'll help you out a whole lot with this build. So I have a few here, Devouring Depths, which will do a lot for us damage-wise. You'll have Devour up more often than not, so using Devour and Super at the same time is pretty easy, so you'll get a big, nice damage buff on your Super, which is always going to be great. Overload Grenades is another great one. If you ever run into Overload enemies, you'll probably have your grenade at the same time, so you can apply Weaken and stun them at the same time. And then Harmonic Siphon is also a great one to run. Harmonic Siphon is a helmet mod that gives you orbs of light for matching your subclass and your weapon damage type. So if you're running a Void primary like you should with the Nezarec Sin and Voidwalker, then you're going to be spawning orbs giving you more super energy and also, using Nezarec Sin's perk to give you more ability and super energy. And lastly, I have hands-on or Ashes assets, so whether you want to use melees or grenades to get super energy, both work. You run either one and you'll do the same thing and it'll work just fine. And I'm going to have a whole slew right here of different elemental well mods, some that I think are pretty necessary and some that I think if you have Artifice Armor you should slap on, being that we have 3 elemental well mods currently in the game right now that are artifact mods, so they can go in the Artifice slot. Alright, let's get started with one of the most important ones, Font of Might. Whenever you pick up a Void Elemental Well, this is going to boost your damage, so you can clear ads faster. And let's pair that with another artifact mod right now, Volatile Flow, which adds volatile rounds to your Void weapons whenever you pick up a Void Elemental Well. So you can clear ads faster and get more Void kills, giving you more ability energy. It's all a cycle of more energy. Then let's add on, you could either go with Elemental Ordnance or Melee Wellmaker, just depending on how you're feeling, and if you have Artifice Armor, of course you could do both. It just depends if you want to focus on grenades or melees. Both are great options, but I personally prefer grenades because Vortex grenades are just so amazingly good right now. And then Elemental Armaments to get more Void Elemental Wells, being that we're using a Void primary on Voidwalker. And then Well of Tenacity for that 3 times resistance every time we pick up a Void Well, which we're spawning a ton of by throwing grenades and just using our primary weapon. And some other Elemental Well mods you should keep track of in case you do have that Artifice Armor, and you can slot 3 Elemental Well mods outside of the combat mod slot. Explosive Wellmaker, that way you can get more wells. They're solar, but they're more wells for more ability energy. And then Reaping Wellmaker, that way every time you use your Rift, you get a elemental well on your first kill afterwards, and you're going to be getting a decent amount of rifts because of Nezarec Sin, and Child of the Old Gods is a really good aspect for your rift. Alright, those are all the mods we have, and I'm just going to try to round out this video real quick. So this build will work great for you if you're looking to spam your abilities and not really have to use your primary, but of course it is there, and if you do need ability energy, it's great and ready to go. I love this build right now. I've loved Nezarec Sin for a while. Most people have. It's a really good exotic, but with Void 3.0, I've seen a lot of talk on some other exotics that aren't Nezarec Sin, and people talking a lot, including myself, about the Osmiomancy gloves on Warlock because they are also just a great exotic. But don't forget Nezarec Sin, especially with Funnel Web coming out, and it's an amazing weapon to use with Nezarec Sin. And all the volatile flow and all that, it's all just great for Nezarec Sin. More void kills means more ability energy and more void kills from abilities. You always have a super for champions almost. It's just great to just throw out supers and grenades all the time. Anyways, that's about it for this build, and I'll have another one next week, probably a Titan build, probably Stasis. So hopefully you'll check that out next week, and subscribe if you're not already, like this video, comment, check out my Twitter and other things I have, if you could find that link in the pinned comment down below. Anyways, thank you for stopping by, and see you next time.